It looks like a top streaming platform's game division may be in trouble. Well, not a game streaming platform, a movie and TV streaming platform that has games. But the games themselves don't stream, they're just normal games. Whatever, it's Netflix. It's Sunday, so let's get sensational. I'm Mike, and I'm back to talk about the gaming news. And it's been a while, but Netflix gaming is back in the news. That thing that they offer as part of some of their subscription tiers that I totally didn't forget exists. So the last time Netflix gaming was in the news was last October when they shut down their AAA development studio, which was a sign that maybe this gaming venture wasn't working out for them. But now they're in the news again because they're losing a bunch of games next month. So Netflix is delisting 20 games from their game service next month. Most of them are leaving on July 15th with the exception of Hades, which is leaving on July 1st. Now this is because Netflix didn't renew the licenses for these games, and it is common for these type of services for games to come and go like this, but usually it's like 2 to 3 games at a time, not 20. That's kind of a large amount. And according to the Game Informer article, they have 114 games total, so that's 20% of the games that they're losing off of their service. Now of course I mentioned Hades, which is probably one of the bigger games on the list, but there's also a Lego game, a SpongeBob game, and most importantly, Carmen Sandiego. How in the world are we gonna find her now? In all seriousness though, I'm not sure what this says for the future of Netflix gaming. Now, I've never personally tried it, even though I have it included with my subscription, but Netflix to me just isn't a place that I think of for gaming. But let me know down in the comments if you tried it or if you're a regular user of it. And speaking of gaming and subscription services, Xbox has a subscription and a new-ish device to play it on. So Microsoft has announced a new Xbox. I'm just kidding. They announced a new device which is part of their This is an Xbox campaign, which is basically any device where you can play Xbox games including streaming. So Xbox has partnered with Meta to release a limited edition of the Meta Quest 3's that's Xbox themed. It's black, it has green accents on the headset and the controller. It also comes with a limited edition Xbox controller and the Elite strap, which is actually a great inclusion. I have a regular Quest 3 and I bought an Elite strap after the first 2 days with the headset. It's just way more comfortable. It also comes with 3 months of Game Pass Ultimate, which you would need to be able to play any Xbox games on the headset because they're only available through streaming, but you need Game Pass Ultimate to basically access. Now I do like the headset aesthetically with what they did with the color scheme, but basically this whole thing was an advertisement to say you can play Xbox games on a Quest, which you've already been able to do for a couple of years now. Basically you can do all the same things with the normal version of the Quest 3's anyway. The bundle just saves some money. But while we're on the topic of things that are already kind of an Xbox, Microsoft is in the process of making Windows more handheld friendly and possibly console friendly like we talked about last week. And a big part of that experience is going to be using the updated Xbox app as a launcher. And it looks like they've started testing the updated app already. So Xbox insiders are now able to test the new Xbox app on PC, and the big new feature for this is you're allowed to add games from other storefronts. So if it's similar to any other launcher on PC, it'll basically list a game from Steam or Epic, and then when you launch it, it'll still launch that client in the background, but it's just a lot less work to do than manually going into that client and launching the game. But if they want this handheld version of Windows to be successful, this is going to be a big part of it, because it's going to be a pain if you have to navigate to different storefronts on a 7-inch screen to launch a game. Now, we know that the Xbox Ally, or the ROG Xbox Ally, we know that the ROG Xbox Ally is launching towards the end of the year, so hopefully this updated Xbox app is in a good state by then. I have my personal issues with the Xbox app on PC, like sometimes updates stall and download statuses don't update correctly, but it has gotten better recently, so hopefully they get those issues ironed out as well before the launch of this handheld. Alright, it's that time of the week again to unfortunately talk about layoffs and studio shutdowns, and this week is Hypixel Studios. So Riot Games purchased Hypixel Studios in 2020, and they've been working on this RPG titled Hytale. It had a Minecraft aesthetic and it was supposed to combine some of the elements of that game with an action RPG. Well, according to Hypixel CEO Aaron Donahue, they ran into some issues with the game basically not meeting their technical expectations. They even rebooted the game engine during development, but they felt like the game wasn't far enough along, which resulted in the decision to cancel it. And with the project being canceled, it led to the studio shutting down. Now, Donahue said he doesn't blame Riot Games for the shutdown, and Riot is helping employees find position within other parts of Riot Games. So it sounds like for now there isn't anyone being let go, which is actually good news because most of the time with these situations there are usually layoffs that follow. So I'm hoping that this remains the case and all the Hypixel employees can find new positions within Riot if they choose to. Now there is another story that went around last week about layoffs. It's a rumor at the moment, but it's rumored that Microsoft may be doing some major layoffs next week that could also impact the Xbox division. I do want to mention it here because, of course, if it does happen, then we'll talk about it next week. But I'm not going to focus on it for now since it's just a rumor, and I'm personally hoping that it doesn't happen. But Xbox and Microsoft as a whole have done a bunch of layoffs, so it really could go either way, so we'll just wait and see. Just like Sony is waiting to see how this new lawsuit against them will shake out. So Sony is facing a new lawsuit in the Netherlands around the way they handle digital games. So if you're not aware, on PlayStation there's no option to buy digital games other than do PlayStation directly, while other places like Steam have options where you can buy keys through other storefronts, or in some cases like Xbox where you can buy physical cards at a store. Sony no longer does that. So it's because of this that the Dutch consumer group Mass Damage and Consumer Foundation has filed a collective lawsuit against Sony, basically claiming that they're exploiting their dominant position in the market. They claim that consumers pay 47% more for digital games than physical games, and that Sony's large market share gives them a monopoly on digital games. But the two main accusations in the lawsuit are that Sony is excluding competition and is exploiting customers and developers. Now, this is in the Netherlands, so regardless of what happens, it's probably not going to affect other countries and regions, but it could make them consider looking into how all of these storefronts handle the sale of digital games. In this scenario, Sony has become a target because they do have a strong hold in this market as far as gaming, and they don't have any other options to buy digital games, which will become way more important in the future as consoles continue to move towards being all digital. I personally prefer digital games, but I do think that we need to evaluate how they're being sold and make sure that there are more consumer protections around this type of stuff. And speaking of being sold, the Switch 2 has been selling like hot shakes.
Don't you mean hotcakes?
No, like heated milkshakes, the common saying that everyone uses.
No one said.
Anyway, moving on. Some people haven't been happy with the display, and that's what we're talking about today in our final story. So it looks like the internal display of the Switch 2 has come under some scrutiny recently due to two things: its HDR capabilities, and more important, its response time. So on the HDR side of things are high dynamic range, which allows certain parts of the screen to get brighter and make them pop. Something like a sun rising over a horizon would be a good example of when to use HDR. And for something like that to be effective, that part of the display needs to get very bright. But the criticism with the Switch 2 is that its display doesn't get bright enough for true HDR. It can't reach 1000 nits, which many would consider to be true HDR, but in reality, it's not really that big of a deal because you're still getting additional colors with HDR and that extended brightness in certain parts of the image. So not being 1000 nits, in my opinion, is not that big of a deal. The bigger part of the criticism for the screen is the response time. So some people have reported that the Switch 2's response time felt slow even with a new display that can go up to 120 Hz. So several publications started testing it, including Hardware Unboxed and Digital Foundry, and they found that the response time can be between 17 and 33 milliseconds based on their testing, which in a lot of cases is actually a slower response time than the Switch 1. They're basically saying it's one of the worst displays on the market as far as its response time. Now, I'll be completely honest, I personally didn't notice, but I'm not the most sensitive when it comes to latency unless it's really bad. To me, it felt similar to the Switch when I played it, so your mileage may vary. If you're more sensitive to input latency, you may notice a difference. Personally, I'm old and bad at games, so I haven't noticed anything out of the ordinary when I'm playing it. I do notice the input latency when I'm doing something like playing a cloud-based game. Like, I definitely notice it then when it's super high, but to me, it's not high enough where I actually notice. But let me know in the comments if you noticed the input latency on the Switch 2 or your thoughts on the display overall. Again, let me know down below. And if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button ding to be notified when I drop a video or a live stream. And always do at least 2 things at the same time.